Chúng ta bắt đầu thầy Phap Dung sẽ chia sẻ nói chung. Thầy Phap Dung sẽ chia sẻ. Thầy Phap Dung sẽ xin mời đại chúng lên thanh kính. Thầy Phap Dung bắt đầu chia sẻ về Nam Mô Ba Lô. Ta sẽ Nam Mô Ba Lô. So if we can sit, dear brothers and sisters, we can sit up there. Both of you will share about the practice of listening to the chanting. And if the sisters can sit in the front and on the side, and then the brothers will go behind. So we balance. No. Both sides, sisters, but we also can have sisters. One or two sisters will sit in front. Or on the side. Okay, we and then some sisters here.
Yeah. And we can ngồi xuống, because Thầy Phap Dung will begin with Thầy Phap Dung will begin sharing about how to practice with the chant. And then we'll stand up and do Namo Valo. And we'll do 2 times. First the sisters, 2 times Namo Valo, and then the brothers 2 times Wu. And then all together Namo Valo, and then we finish 2 times Wu. Okay? Okay.
Did you get that?
So we can sit down.
Maybe you can repeat that, Thay.
We have maybe 2
I don't know where many others.
more 2 or 3 sisters to come over here
I told him.
on this side, just to balance. Tuk Nien, will you come over here? Okay. Yeah, and then.
It looks like we might not have a drummer. I don't know where he is.
Oh goodness. Okay, well then I'll do the drumming. Then nobody will do that.
Dear Thay, dear noble community, this morning I was informed that we decided to chant Namo Valo Kiteshvara, the name of the Bodhisattva of compassion. When we chant and when we listen to this chant, it's an opportunity for us to practice, to come in touch with compassion within our heart. So please sit comfortably, relaxingly, and this is a meditation on compassion. We might be going through some difficulties, we might be facing challenges in our personal life. We also might recognize that there's a lot of suffering in the world due to racism, oppression, certain groups not being heard, not being represented, and being unjustly So we take this moment as we chant and as we listen, we can send that loving kindness, compassion towards ourselves, whatever difficulty we might be feeling. We acknowledge it, we recognize it, and we take care of it with our love, with all our love. We hold ourselves, we hold our hands, we hold our heart with this energy as we listen. As we look at the screen, we might also like to close our eyes and use our ears to come in touch with that energy of compassion. We can also think of our loved ones, our friends, our family, our partner, and send this same energy of compassion towards them who might be facing discrimination, who might be feeling lonely, sad. And then we expand the circle to send this compassionate energy to all the people around the world, in Europe, in the Middle East, in Asia, in Africa, the different continents and islands around the world who are suffering due to social instability or through the climate changing, causing a lack of resource, poverty, war, violence. So in this moment we feel safe, we have a Sangha, but we recognize that in this moment as well, other people have not found the path, and due to their ignorance, they cause discrimination, they cause war and violence, fear. So both the victims and the oppressors, the one who caused destruction, also need compassion. They do not know any better. And the circle widens to the entire planet, the whole ecosystem, the forests being cut, the oceans and rivers being polluted. We also see the mountains, the air, needing compassion, needing human beings to wake up. So please sit and follow your breathing and use this contemplation to generate compassion in our heart. Invite the brothers and sisters to stand up.
Contemplation before chanting. The Sangha is invited to come back to our breathing so that our collective energy of mindfulness will bring us together as an organism, going as a river with no more separation. Let the whole Sangha breathe as one body, chant as one body, listen as one body, and transcend the boundaries of a delusive self, liberating ourselves from the superiority complex, the inferiority complex, and the equality complex.
Online? Not yet. Raise your thumb fingers if you can hear. Oh, yes, you can. How about on life? On life, everyone? Wonderful. Welcome to the present moment. And as Thay would say, let's fasten our seatbelt and enjoy our breathing. Sit comfortably, smiling to spaceship Earth. We're on a wonderful journey together. All our friends around the world are with us, and we have a seatbelt of mindfulness, of Sangha, and we feel safe, we feel at home, we feel at ease in the present moment. No need for anything, for anyone, just being with our breath. The present moment is a wonderful moment because we recognize that we are alive. And we have friends on the path. In present moment, out, a miraculous moment. Dear respected teacher, dear noble community, today is our last day of the Wake Up Earth Retreat. It's actually the 30th of May, year 2021, and we have gathered around the world, around I think think in Plum Village here as well. And if you our community, the monastics, the monastery, have been upgrading ourselves quite quickly to catch up a little bit with technological advancement. So thank you for supporting and joining us. And I feel the spirit of Thay very alive, very, how you call it, always upgrading, always learning, always adapting, always changing. For me, that is the inspiration every time I think of Thay. No matter he's 70, 80, 90 years old, he's always like upgrading. He's always refreshing the practice. And that's a reminder for us all, that for us not to become old. And the Wake Up movement for me is also a reminder, and I'm very lucky because I am fortunate to know a lot of young people, and they inspire me very much. And this is, and I have a lot to learn because as well, there's a part of me that gets rusty and don't want to change, and I think Wake Up helps me. Every time we have a retreat here, I always learn something new about what the young people are up to. I wanted to show you an image of Thay that I have in my room, the wall right in front of the desk that I usually sit and write or read. I don't know if our technical team can put up. It's an image of Thay in 1963. If our brothers and sisters, you can turn around, you can see if you like. It's a black and white photograph, and Thay is a little bit to the right, the dark brown robe that you see. And this is the Wake Up movement, 1963. You see? These are the youth. I imagine the youth that he was teaching, and they look like they're coming together either for Tet or for a Vu Lang, which is like Mother's Day. And they're all dressed up and they look cool. Look at those hats and tie and the black shades. I mean, Thay was hanging around with some pretty cool young people. So I love to have this at my desk, to know that this picture right here, 1963, the war is happening. It's intense around the country. Right now it's in the north. It hasn't come down yet. And the country is very divided. So just to let you know some of the origins of Wake Up movement and the engaged Buddhism that Thay was envisioning. He actually wrote the Order of Interbeing, the OI, the 14 Mindfulness Training, probably around this time, 67, I believe. Yeah, and this is very inspiring. And Thay, somehow the way he is, he just has this natural whole of his life to attract young people. And I've seen it, even children. I've seen Thay sit there and children come by to him and they are not rowdy. They're just like in awe of it's a very Yoda image, right? Thay, I think they copyright Thay from Star Wars, but every time I see Thay, he's always around young people. And he's done for his entire life to create a community, to establish a practice, to lay the foundation for a tradition, including music, including chanting books, poetry, art. He's inspired and supported a lot of artists as well. So he's very creative, and he's invited the monks and nuns to rap, to put on plays. So art was always part of Thay's life. You see the energy, and community needs all that. And the monastery needs all that. And there's a reason why Thay never called Plum Village monastery. He called it a village, because he envisioned a fourfold Sangha living together, singing together, playing together, and serving society together. And so this is the black and white image of 1963, and now we have upgraded. Now we are online, we're Zooming together, and there's no barrier now. We can actually connect to each other, and I believe many sanghas are now meeting online and supporting each other. But of course, we always want to come in flesh with each other, and that slowly we are opening up our center, and of course we can never replace Zoom for the real lived experience of being next to each other. So this is our Thay, our teacher. I always trust the young people, and I can understand now that I'm a little bit not so young. And as you get older, you become like set in your ways. I don't know if the brothers and sisters mentioned it in the previous sharing, but I noticed that not only do I forget more easily, but I become a little bit more harder to change. Kind of lazy to change. I'm not that old, but I can see. I call it rusting, And when I live with my community, my brothers and sisters certainly remind me. They make fun of me. They poke me. Like yesterday, someone hit my bike. It's just to keep me young. Like be playful. I was like, I came out and I smiled. I was like, man, I love my sangha. They're always joking around, and they keep you really up to you got to be ready, And I can see also some of us who are like getting rusty, we can't handle it anymore, like God, hiking every week, or like volleyball every lazy afternoon, or like laughter and song singing. I know some of us is also, it's a challenge as well. But anyway, you see the coming together in community, we support each other. We keep ourselves fresh. We keep ourselves. I was walking up the hill here with Sister Ho Ngim, and I have such so many memories with Sister Ho Ngim. I don't know. Oh, she's there. We can and I know she's she's doing her best too to keep up with the young people, the energy, yeah. And it's tough, when you're hitting 70, then you let me know, And Sister Shiya, Sister Tanim as well. I noticed she's showing up for everything. Did you notice that? It's very difficult, I sometimes just want to stay in my room and read my book and do like the things I like to do as a not so young person. But my brother would come and go, hey, brother, you want to hike? And I go. And I'm fortunate. I'm very, very fortunate to have brothers and sisters, to have lay friends that come here. A lot up in the Salidi Ham, we have a few young men here. And they've been playing, we're shooting hoops of basketball together, and we're playing volleyball. So this is Thay's vision for a representation of a model of living together, playing together, and keeping each other on the path. And that as a refuge, that as a service, as a model for society. This is Thay's vision. And I just want to share with you, so Thay also wrote many books during that time speaking to young people. This one is one of the earliest one. It's Nói với tuổi 20. Speaking, I would like to speak to the 20-something generation. They call it 20-something? Yeah, 20-something generation. Thay wrote a book and this whole book is, I won't go through it, and we hope to translate it into English. This is 1963, Thay wrote this. So that, 1965, sorry. So that photograph is 1963, This book was written in 1965. So Thay was always keeping the young people at heart. And I'll just read you the, the content page. The first one is to recognize. So Thay, that chapter, he recognized the suffering of the generation, that they were always being spoken down to, that they don't know anything from the older generation. And they suffer a lot, and they lost trust in the older generation. And then Thầy goes on to speak about loneliness, cô đơn, and then lý tưởng, our aspiration, our ideal to serve. So this is the heart. Thay's contemplating the heart of young people. Học hành, education. So what is the purpose of education? How to study? And then, of course, Thay dedicates 2 chapters on love. Anybody think that's probably appropriate? Wake up. And Thay wrote many books about love after that. And actually, I love what Thay says in the first chapter of the first paragraph of love. Thay wrote, you probably don't think that I qualify to share about love because I am a monk since I was 16 years old. It's very sweet. You know, it's like, what do I know about partnership and women when I'm a monk since 16 and a virgin, right? Anyway, it's just a very beautiful, and he dedicates 2 chapters, Tôn giáo, Thay also a chapter on spirituality, and then the conclusion. So I share with you this one. And then Thay began to train monastics, and he was training monastics, and he wrote one, the youth, this one. Nói với người xuất gia trẻ tuổi là speaking to the monastics, the young generation monastics. So he also wrote one. And this one, Thay very clearly tried to renew a vision for a monastery or a temple, and that we should incorporate society, politics, art, music, science. So it's very not based on devotional Buddhism, but on a practical, evidence-based, more more practical kind of monastery, where we have concrete practices that help people find relief, and concrete practices to help them nourish their happiness. And then, of course, the most recent one Thay wrote was for the aspiration for the youth and the happiness of the youth. So this is kind of like these 3 books. You can touch Thay's kind of constant contemplation and keeping himself in touch with the young people. And we're very fortunate that we have a lot of young people come. And they actually, many of them I know come through Wake Up Sangha. And so the Sangha is actually the nurturing, the, what do you call those? Nursery, like the nursery, right? You begin, you kind of like, you start to like the practice, and you find transformation, and then you want to go deeper. And then some of them, like myself, find that, hey, you know, this is a good way to be living in the world and affecting for change to better the world, to lead this path 24 hours, 7 days. So this is when I was a layperson, Los Angeles. I was 26 years old, 25, 26, a little bit right after college. I went to the Sangha in Los Angeles, and I was the only young person, the only Vietnamese person in my Sangha. my Sangha was called Ordinary Dharma in Santa Monica. And I remember, I didn't feel out of place or anything, and that's normally what it was. But later, our Sangha, I became a monk at 29. How many of you are 29? Yeah, some of you around 29-ish? Yeah, be careful because I had a girlfriend that she knew I was going to go on this path. And I met her, she came to one of the retreat where I was retreating in San Diego. And I remember it was very, it was heartbreaking, but I got a lot of support from her. She knew that deep in my heart, I didn't want to really raise a family, but to actually just help society and help myself become a better person. And this is, I think, a kind of aspiration that we all have. I think we join Sangha, we learn the practice, not only to heal ourselves, to transform ourselves, but actually to find a direction, to find something meaningful, to participate in the society. And that's Thay's vision for Wake Up. I think before it was called Wake Up, it was called for a healthy and compassionate youth, for a healthy and compassionate society. Youth, what? Young Buddhists. Yeah, you know where young Buddhists for healthy and compassionate society. I have a feeling Thay was influenced when we were in Denver at the YMCA, because there's a statue there with young people, and the YMCA is Young Men Christian Association, YMCA, right? I think that needs to be way updated, especially the young men only, right? Yeah. Some of you doing the song, huh? But you see, I think any spiritual tradition, we need to look at continuation, need at the young generation. They're the most brave, courageous, and how do you call it? They sort of always speak directly the truth, and it's hard. So Thay wanted to bring that in, because sometimes, we get caught and we need new energy. Luckily, I think the young Buddhists, YB, at first it was called something, the letters, it was so complicated. So I share with you a little bit of, Thay put those letters, YB for H, C, S. Can you imagine this is what the movement would be called? YBCHS. That's like a whole mouthful. So I share you at the very seed, the beginning of the Wake Up movement, at least in this form. Then the brothers and sisters came up with just Wake Up. So I'm so happy that it's so much more easy to handle. So you're part of that community, this movement, and I think that we're very fortunate that Thay and the Sangha has paid attention to the young generation. For me, to have Deer Park, we used to have retreats for young adults from college. We had young people from UCLA and from Chapman University come, and it's always just a delight for the monks and nuns to learn the new challenges that young people are facing. So this is, we are continuing that process. And I think our Sangha have learned a lot in the last, maybe decade almost, the new suffering that we have. And I think our brothers and sisters, Sister Thầy Nghiêm, Bội Nghiêm, Phap Lưu, and have addressed some of the new things are confronting and needing to adapt. Is a new kind of suffering. The labeling, the identity, the being more inclusive with our language as well as our representation, to make sure we are not, excluding others from our language, whether that's from the LGBTQ community, from the Black Lives Matter community, from the Latino, from the minority indigenous. So there's this movement in society, and it's this youth that is like really bringing it. And I have to honestly say that we are, as a monastic community, are learning, educating ourselves, and growing with it. And in fact, I'm part of a group of young people, wake-uppers, also looking at the third mindfulness training that you took this morning, to actually look at some ways, new ways of rephrasing it, so that around sexuality, and gender and so on, as more inclusive and addresses some of the nuance, the new ways that people are experiencing suffering. And recently, they asked about a phrase about made known to my friends and family, and only when it's safe, and that was like, it reveals that it's like, we a lot of our family and a lot of ideas in the monastic, sometimes it's just a very kind of like leave it to beaver kind of family. Everything is okay, everyone gets along, but not everyone has that kind of family. Not everyone has a mother and a father, I'm learning, that actually it's two mother and a child. And so this is something and so I personally ask for your patience, because I'm a little rusty and I also need to learn as well. And as well as you hear so sincerely and so compassionately from Sister Bội Nghiêm. And I just want to do a shout out for my sister, for being courageous, for speaking truth to power. And and I think we're all nourished, and we can feel the Thay alive when we hear things like that. Thay is like smiling because we are engaging with the new forms of suffering. And so I just wanted to that wasn't really quick shout out to the Wake Up community, but I want to, just express my gratitude for that. I think my topic today is radical insights, and I'll try to stick with it. I've been contemplating, and the subtitle is Finding Peace in the Eye of the Storm. There's a lot of challenges we face as youth, our generation. We've never been more exposed to information ever in the history of humankind. We've never had so many relationships as we do now, ever. Before it was physical, but now we have to take care of all these relationships online as well as in our lives. So we are quite saturated, bombarded with information and access. We are quite open to being interrupted by all kinds of information and things to take care of. So it's very overwhelming. That is the storm. The storm here is not just, it is a storm of information. And that gives rise a lot of ideas and emotions and so on. So we are bombarded with that. So how to find peace? I think the news, the media expose us constantly every day. So finding peace in the eye of the storm. I think coming together here is, I could like to rephrase that, is finding a boat in the eye of the storm. Finding a boat. How about that? Can you imagine that? The storm is swirling and you have a boat. Not only do you have a boat, but you have 50 Sangha members rowing with you. So was it the song Enjoy the Boat Ride or Going to Nowhere or something? There's a boat song somewhere. But that's also my vision, that we are not afraid of the storm, and we not only want to just get into the eye of the storm and stay peaceful when it's stormy outside, but we have a boat, and we have friends on it, and we can find friends to come on the boat with us. So that is an image I have as well. So the boat here is the community, the Sangha. Another rephrasing is finding a practice in the eye of the storm. And I think we've all tasted that during this last week, that we've touched our suffering, but we are not overwhelmed by it. We're able to cry and feel pain, but because we have each other, we have the practice, we are not overwhelmed by it, even if it's online. I think after the third day, we felt that happening in us, that the ripening of the practice, that we're able to go there, the vulnerable places in our heart. And many of us were able to touch that in our Dharma sharing. And it's so beautiful to be able to touch suffering, but not let it overwhelm us, and to honor it. So that is finding a practice, finding a community in the eye of the storm. And this is, for me, our whole purpose, why we why we have the monastery, why we build Sangha, is to create that refuge where there's a community and there's a practice. I think, as Brother Phap Ho, Sister Thay, Phap Lu, my mind has kind of like merged all their sharings, but they help us realize that our ancestors are with us. The past is not gone. Lately, I've been reflecting a lot about that. Like in the sutra, it says that there's only the present moment. The past is already gone, and the future has not come. But lately, doing walking meditation, or once in a while, it'll come up in me, like the rephrasing it, like, the past is not gone. It's right in the present moment. Our ancestors are there. Things that have been transmitted to us is there. Both the beautiful, the admirable qualities, as well as the painful, the suffering, the discriminated, the biases, the discriminative ways of looking is also within us. So in the present moment, if we are with the practice, we are stable and we are clear. I think Brother Phap Ho shared about some of those practices. And that's why why Thay emphasized so much to return to the present moment, to recognize what is happening in the present moment. And this, we will be able to recognize some of the things that have been transmitted to us, some of our habits, some of our notions, our biases, our ideas, right in the present moment. And it's only when you can be stable in the present moment will you have clarity to recognize this. And the future is here. If you recognize that how society, how the lifestyles of a majority of people living, the potential future that will be coming in terms of economics, in terms of the ecosystem, I think we're slowly waking up. I see signs of people waking up to that the trash doesn't go away anymore. We used to believe that you throw your trash away, right? That's a kind of bias. We've been taught, and we've never thought about where trash goes. But I see returning home and visiting my own blood family, even my niece are beginning. She has a straw that she carries around now. I mean, it's a little thing, but like she's just barely a teenager. She just recently turned 13. And she carries in her backpack a straw everywhere. And she came over to her grandma, my mom's place, and she brought out the straw to drink. And so there's a little bodhisattva being born from that little awareness. And she has a bag. Anyways, the consciousness is growing. And the ignorance that it's slowly, we are learning more and adjusting. And so this is, we can see the future if we don't change course, what will happen to human beings, to the planet, to the challenge that we will face. And this is what the young people are rising up to speak about. I was fortunate, I think a year or two ago, to be part of the Students for Climate Justice in Paris. A number of monks and nuns, we went to Bordeaux to participate in that. And I have never participated in such a joyful protest. I mean, you see the French youth students, they were hip. I've never seen so many amazing tattoos, and they were singing, they were hugging. It was so joyful. And we had Sister Chung Duk lead our walking. We did sitting meditation, and all the young people, I think they kind of know what monks are. They bow, or they're very respectful around. So the young generation also are kind of like, it's kind of hip to be like meditating, or they kind of know that culture. At least in France, when I was, it was amazing. We were walking and they would pass by and they would bow. And so this is something I see already the young generation is bringing into the environmental movement. And I think some of our Sangha members were involved with the Black Lives Matter. I've seen photographs, some of the Wake Up Sangha and our older Sangha. And so this is something, so the future, that's what we are being called to wake up to. That we know the future, and we know we need to change a little bit of our lifestyle. And so in the present moment, if we come in touch deeply, and if we are mindful, if we remember, if we recollect, we can both touch our ancestor and what they have transmitted to us, as well as touch and look at our own lives and see how we hold certain notions, ideas, and where they come from. And because that moves us to think a certain way and to behave a certain way. So those are some of the assumptions. I grew up in America, educated in America, and I had that ideal to become a successful architect, to become a famous architect, to have a big house on the hill of, Malibu Hills. These things, the way they call it the American dream, is no longer sustainable, and is a very privileged lifestyle. So those things, waking up from that, realizing that, do I need this ATM card, and do I need to be paying attention, hoarding up money? These are some of the assumptions that we're invited to examine. And this is not to say everyone get rid of your bank accounts, get rid of your job, wander the street and do social service. No. You do what you need to do, but to just re-examine where they come from, especially from a culture that is really media oriented. They brainwash us through the media, through the films, through the magazines. So these are we need to, and this is what I see from the young people, especially in the environmental movement. They're pointing out a lot of things that we've assumed. And this is also happening along with the social and racial justice, with the Me Too movement. Finally, women are like coming out and really challenging the powerful, and they're very successful. Now it's spreading to Asia. Now India, I think Bangladesh recently have all these women now are like rising up and calling out that they've been sexually abused for generations, and it was accepted. The culture allowed it. And same thing with the powerful men who are in the industry, both in the business industry as well as the entertainment industry. So that movement continues now, and that's something that we can all be proud of, because it slowly, when a certain sector of society wake up, and more justice, more compassion, acknowledging the pain, the violence that's done to women. And most recently also with the Black Lives Matter movement, and then most recently the Asian American speaking out in America. I think Brother Phap Dung and I and Sister Kim, we were involved with a ceremony in Los Angeles at a Buddhist temple to pray for the Asian women who were shot in because of in their I think their spa or their massage place. So these are things that that we're waking up to re-envision our society, and we need help with this. We need young people like you to call out and to inform us, and we're very fortunate to be connected that way. Maybe listen to one sound of the bell to give gratitude to all the young bodhisattvas out there who, through the practice, through their spiritual practice, they are helping re-envision a society. In the monastery, we get trained a lot to watch. I think Sister Dangim shared a little bit yesterday. She touched a little bit in her first answer about how views are formed, or why it's important. Because the more we practice, or how do you say, the more we don't practice, then the views get stuck. And this is something, is like the basis of everything. The basis of the biases, the discrimination, the not recognizing. It's because we have a way of looking that we are blind to, and that's why in meditation it is crucial. And I feel it's important that I share a little bit what I learned and how it, I think wake-uppers, we all need to know this as we continue our social engagement for justice and for whatever we're working with. Or some of us are just maybe simply dealing with our family, struggling to deal with our loved ones. So we need to know a little bit of how views are formed, how we have ideas and notions, because that forms how we think, and then how we speak, and how we act. So before educating us, informing us, and getting other people to know, we need to know how the mind works. So please bear with me, because I feel that we need to really get this down to know how notions form in the first place. So it's involved with the 3 poisons that Sister Thay talked about at the beginning: the attachment, the aversion, and the base of all that is ignorance. So we need to know how views are kind of get stuck together. So this is something, please bear with me. I will go to the whiteboard and try to do some kind of, more classy, in the class kind of drawing. It would be nice if everything went smooth and we know our direction, we know how to handle ourselves. Ideally, that's like someone, who is collected, right? But as you know, especially when we're young, we have many things pulling us: our family, our what we want to do in life, what is really in our heart, or even in the relationship area. Is this the right person, or they truly love me, or like, do my family understand me, and so on. There's always this constant tension dynamic, and it affects us. And in the Buddhist practice, we call it affects us in terms of our 5 skandhas. And I think some of you may know the body, the feelings, the perception, the mental formation, and our mind. So the Buddha sat down and he realized that these 5 elements make up who we are, and we're constantly in, in flux about it. We want to do this, but then we doubt ourselves. We don't know if that's the way. So our feelings are really affected. And this is, we need to know how things form in our mind so that we become more stable. And Phap Lu, I want to continue where Phap Lu shared. Please bear with me. This has helped me become a little bit more cautious. So I want to share with you as we continue our work. So Phap Lu drew Do you remember that image Phap Lu drew? And here is mind, consciousness, and this is store consciousness. So this is like the earth, right? And we have many seeds, he shared, that are under our store. And when they rise, they appear in our mind consciousness. And now here I want to share with you, continue that. We also have our eyes, our ears, our nose, our body. Our eyes, our ears, our nose, our tongue. Where is it? Our nose, our tongue, right? And our body, and our mind. So through these five sense doors, we interact with the world, and what we hear, what we see, so the eye is here. We see somebody, something, and it goes through our eyes and it comes out. And we recognize it in our mind. Recently, I was visiting home, and I was walking in the evening with my niece, and it was dark, and there was a street light, and there was a young man in the street, and he was on the phone, and we can see from the light that he's the way he's dressed, some tattoos. The hair is a certain way, and my niece got really fearful. I really felt her kind of like really, I'm like, "Uncle, we need to cross the street." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She was very afraid, and I'm like, "No, let's just stay. You stay here, we walk, it's okay, And we got closer, and she was really nervous, and she felt threatened by this, how do you say, a Caucasian person who looked a certain way. And we said hello, and he's like, and he's like, and we passed by, and nothing happened. And, it didn't, it occurred to me like, wow, she's been watching a lot of media and with her friends. And so also my mom, they've been informed a lot by the news. And so they're very afraid now. My mom can't walk in the park anymore. During this time, because all her friends are telling her that Asians are being targeted. And so this is something that's, really real happening with my niece. But a few days later, I was riding my bike, and I meet the young man again. He's on the sidewalk, and I talked to him, and he's quite a lovely guy. He's like, "So what are you?" And so we have this conversation, and I realized that, it's amazing how, because the way he looked, alternative, how do you say, unconventional, how do you say? But luckily, as monastic, we're also kind of unconventional. We're kind of like, we're kind of strange, so we kind of don't really fit. Are you black? Are you Asian? You're just like, are you a Jedi? We kind of like get disassociated with things that are like normally in the news. So I share this here, and I've been recognizing that that's a lot of that is happening. And it's affected my niece, and affected my mom. So they are actually feeling what actually a lot of black people, African American who've been living in America have been feeling for hundreds of years, to actually be afraid to step outside, right? I realized when my mom was sharing her and her friends, I realized, well, wow, there's like a whole, many generation of Americans who feel this every day when they walk outside because of their skin color. And Asians have been feeling this, but it's somehow become really prominent recently because of a certain framing of a virus, right? You use the wrong word through the ears, right? And then it gets associated with certain things. So I wanted to really point out that we need to be very careful and need to really know how our minds work and the mind of society, the collective mind. Our individual mind, because we hold these notions and we have these ideas and we believe them. And in the Buddhist teaching, they identify in perception, there are 3 ways that we perceive the world. And this helped me a lot to be very careful. And one way that our perception interact with the world is directly. That means we touch this and we just have a direct experience. We don't say, oh, this is a whiteboard, this is cold, this reminds me of Thay, oh, we need to get a wood board, this is too big, right? We see a flower, we go, oh, that reminds me of my wedding. You know, we just have a direct experience of the flower as it is. No preconceived notion. That is touching the suchness, though it doesn't have any of this. It is just mere, I think someone mentioned, mere recognition. Like, but it's the most difficult thing in the practice of being human, because we also have memory, and we need memory. That's what brings meaning, that's what brings relationship. Someone shared about relationship. Relationship needs memory. So it's both, we want to touch, but also we also value and appreciate that we have memories with each other. That's Sister Huedin. I know her. She's very kind, very lovely, and always present for the Sangha. You see, I have all these notions, but they're like wonderful notions. Right? I'm sorry. She's embarrassed a little, turning pink because of interaction. I forget that she's also very shy. You're just right in front of me, sorry. So direct, right? Direct is kind of like where we want to move towards, but it's also not the end all absolute. Because it's also wonderful to have memories, to have association, to have meaning. That's what brings meaning, right? And the second way we perceive the world is through representation. Represent. Is that long? Everything lived different on the board, huh? And so here, representation, and the third here is mere images or imagination. It's amazing, huh? That these meditators, the Buddha, like without instrument, without science, just fold his leg in the forest, looked at his 5 skandhas, and this right here is like the key to being human and why we can touch happiness and create so much suffering. Because all the things that we see, that we hear, that we eat, they of course, it's a natural thing as a biological system that we learn and we interact and we learn and we store it and we store it so we don't do it again. Like Phap Lu mentioned, you eat something awful or something and you know you don't want to go there again. I think it was pho, right? No, I'm kidding. Yeah, you know, it's like as an animal, it has a function for us to learn and to store certain memories, right? So when it comes in, it's like, okay, that is dangerous. I should be fearful of that. Oh, that is so lovely. It makes me feel at home, safe, understood. So through our ears, we hear a sister share, and she mentions something that we feel connected to. We feel we are heard. We feel we are safe. Right? These things help us to heal. But we need to know how it works, because when we don't hear this and we hear something else, we also know how that works. So here, words, these are in the areas of words and what they mean, sounds, associations, and so on. What we would call even culture, customs, things we assign meaning, right? For a group of people and not other groups. So these are all happening in the area how we perceive things. That's why I love the Sangha, because it's an experiment of how things are done differently. I think I love the image. I'll never forget pancake in a bowl of pho. I think, was that Phap Lu? Yeah, I've seen that, but not with that, but with pasta and, bún huế or something. So you get thrown off living in a multi-cultural community, and you get different ways to different meanings. So you're constantly, this is like the crucible of training. You know, Martin Luther King, when they were doing the movements for justice and injustice, they trained the youth under the churches to withstand some of the oppression that they will face. That's a kind of training in concentration, in being mindful, preparing yourself for what will come that is a little bit testing you. So in a way, as a practitioner, don't always just look for the comfort, the things that you feel comfortable with, because sometimes the things that challenge us will help us break out from our these aspects that we accept. And mirror images here is kind of obvious, is things that without our eyes, without our ears, mirror images as well as mirror sound, you know. Your favorite song, recently someone was singing. Did someone sing recently? Yes, that song has a lot of association. You know, you don't need to hear it. You could just close your eyes, your ears, and you hear it, mirror images. So we create it in our mind. It's like in the evening you go home, you go back to your bed, you lay down, and you create images in your memory. You're like, I feel so connected to her. She's so lovely. She says everything I want to hear, you know, and it nourishes you. Those are the area of imagination, of fantasy. And our mind has that capacity. So even without these doors, we, from our memory, we create things. And now you know where trauma and stored pain. So both the wonderful memories, both the tragic memories as well. And I had this experience with my father. And that's why I dedicate my whole life to this path, because it taught me that most of my memory, the images, the sound that I associate with my father brought up a lot of resentment, a lot of anger. He didn't even say anything awful. All he did was just to remind my grandma to be more quiet in the morning. And I'll never forget it. That like entered my mind, and all of a sudden I went boop, boop, boop. I was like, oh, he's like this. He's like, I created my father in my mind, mere images. So when we don't have the mind interacting, the five sense object has a better chance to interact merely, simply. But because we're human, we are also blessed that we associate things. So I share this with you not to say not to don't associate and kind of like be blissful. Oh, that doesn't mean anything to me, you know. But it's to recognize how our mind works. When I see the sister, immediately, like that, memories. And they could be wonderful or not wonderful. When I see Brother Phap Dung say something like to me, maybe, I don't know, it's hard. How do I do an awful example? I don't have many around the monastery. When I have been hurt, I feel hurt. Yeah, I haven't been hurt lately. But you know, I know I've hurt people recently. What have I ever hurt? I would say, I have to confess, you know, the letters for LGBTQ got a little longer, and I didn't know what letters to add. And in one of my Dharma talk, I said LGBTQ and whatever. And someone wrote me a reply. I said, Thay, you know, God, that really hurt. And I didn't realize that, you know, I didn't mean it as a kind of like, oh, it doesn't matter. But I realized that, yeah, it's just kind of lazy because I didn't know what else letter to put. But yeah, people get hurt because the way I've used the mouth in a particular way. So I learned that actually it's LGBTQIA plus ... because it's beautiful, you know, and this is what I'm learning, to actually to be not only sensitive to how your way of looking at the world, but how others are also experiencing. So this is in the area of, how do you call it? This is where we are being challenged by in our world right now. As you can see, you know, very obviously with the skin color and the fear and the violence that comes with that. And we're seeing a lot of uprising to wake us up to an accepted way of being for so many generations, with the African American, the black people, the community, as well as with the Asian community, the minority, and indigenous people as well. So for us, we are learning as a society, and I think a lot of this is coming through with the young energy. And this is where we need your help, to be patient and to know that when other people are doing it, is because underneath here, so you don't harbor hate in your heart. You do all the social action for justice, for equity and these movements, But it's very important not to hold hate or to blame, but to understand the ones who perpetrate and discriminate. They are coming from a certain culture, right? And to do it, forcefully and so on, but not to harbor hate. And one last thing I wanted to share on this topic is about the mind. I didn't come into that, but remember mind consciousness here? This is where we form views. We have an experience and then we store it. And we begin to have a lot of ideas. Some of you who have been here with us for the last few days, now you have a different idea about monastics and the monastery because you came here. You played basketball with us, and maybe another idea was removed. And it's like, wow, they're not so strict and rigid than I thought. Some of them are quite silly, and so on. So we form all these ideas, and they create a frame that we see everything, and we need to recognize this. And not that you can get, when you become fully enlightened, like the Buddha we touch earth to, do I say I don't think he got rid of all of it, maybe. It's probably not possible, because he still had like his disciples and he had to associate with them. So when he became fully enlightened, doesn't mean he got rid of these views, but he's no longer a slave to them. That is the difference. Because some of us believe that once you become fully enlightened, you're like, you don't perceive, this is some belief in Buddhism. And so we are both blessed and cursed. Because we're a human being, we have that biological function of that by this way. And we need to know this, how the mind works. And this happens at an individual level, within this, between your ears, and then as a collective, as a community. So there are certain biases that we have, and we need to recognize that as a monastic community. Right now it's just monks and nuns, but as we grow, there might be more than monks and nuns. It might be muns or nunks, somewhere in between, and that is possibility. We're envisioning Buddhism. If you look at Buddhism, everywhere it goes, it adapts. That is the beautiful thing. In Vietnamese, the Buddhism is very different. It's much more Phap than in Thailand. The Buddhism there. So we need to celebrate this part of our tradition, what the Buddha found. The Buddha was challenged in those days with the caste system, the untouchable, I am sure it was much stronger than now, the oppression of women. I think it's still going on in India and in Vietnam too, and in America, on the planet. I think someone recently said we need to move towards more feminine Buddhism. I don't think feminine is what do you call it? Is a monopoly of the women. I think some of my brothers are also very feminine. And yet we laugh at it because we sit down, right? Yes. You see? I'm aware that I'm walking. See, we also have fine manners. And now I'm challenging some fine manners of our brothers and sisters. Because it's our culture that do not talk while you're stepping up the podium. And so we are aware that we are challenging some of my siblings. And they're so lovely. You know, it's nice to be laughing at challenges. But not always the case. And many of us, that's something we're learning, that that sometimes, things collide and we really make people suffer because the amount of things that they are holding from their family, from their ancestor. And this is the refuge of the boat. This is the vision for a better future, that we become more sensitive, that we become more inclusive, more helpful than to cause more suffering. And it's a really lively time to be alive. I've been connected to so many new challenges that I really have to go on my hammock and take a break. is lively, and as you know, there's so many wonderful things to get involved with. But the most important is to take care of this, okay? Because without this, you will burn out. You will continue what your ancestors have transmitted. We want to transform for our ancestor. And this is the task at hand, that we've been handed things from our culture, from our parents, and now we've come in touch with the Dharma. And through the practice of mindfulness, being aware of how our mind works and how we receive. I really wanted to wear a t-shirt that says Trump here, So imagine I walked on here with the white t-shirt and it says Trump with like blue, white, and red. Because I wanted to see what you would thought to have a monk wear a t-shirt that says Trump. Can you imagine that? I know at least 2 people who are kind of like, how do you say, not Trump supporter, but what do they have? They don't have such bad feelings towards him. There's a word for it. To feel, they're very friendly to him. Yeah, and I know 2 people, and they happen to be people I really love. I won't mention who they are. But it's so wonderful to know 2 people who actually, and I know where they got those views from, so I'm not angry at them. And I try not to force my view on them because it doesn't work. But I try to associate and be with him in different realms than just politics. And this is the situation that we are in. The world doesn't have everyone that has the same associations that we do. In fact, we cannot convince them otherwise. And this is and how to live in harmony. This is, of course, we challenge each other and we try to have a dialogue that moves towards more mutual understanding. But how do we live in harmony with people who hold different, they relate to the world differently. And this is our task, to create a community that celebrates diversity. It's difficult. It's not easy, I have to tell you, living in a community with so many different cultures and different ways of approaching things. We're always trying to find our commonality. In our tradition, we call consensus. And so this is very I think a while ago, a couple of years ago, when I was doing research, reading about the young generation, the millennial they call them. And I came across some papers, some surveys, and they found, and two interesting facts I found out from these surveys, not facts, maybe they were just studies from a particular group of people. The companies, the big high-tech companies, one of those, the Fortune something companies, one of the top things they're looking for in terms of the new talent coming out in young people is their ability to work together. That is their top. The survey found that many are coming out and their talent is very, it's not the most, because they're all very talented and very capable. But the one thing that they're really looking for is the ability to work together. Are you surprised? You know, talented people are probably really hard to work together because they know it, right? But that's one thing they're looking for, is people who can work in teams, because that's more sustainable for their company, because they were losing talent as they come. Isn't that a real interesting for that generation? I don't know if it's your generation. Are you considered millennials? No. Are you? Yeah? I forget what age it is, but it's people who like turn 20 after 2000 or something, or they're in their career path when it hit 2000. And then the other funny, interesting thing is that they interviewed the young generation, and they found the thing that they are most looking for is to work for companies that have meaning. So they're not looking for the good paycheck anymore, but they're looking for meaning, something that has purpose, that fulfills them. And for me, this wow, it really rings to me in my heart, because I was always looking for that, how to actually better society, how to contribute as an architect. And slowly I realized that actually, I was designing a house for a very wealthy couple. Am I allowed to say that? They were my clients, but I won't say any further. But they were having a lot of marriage difficulty. And I was working with them. You had to talk to them. And in the middle of the project, and I was spending Saturdays and late night designing for this couple, like a multi-million-dollar house on the hills of Hollywood. And I realized that by the time this project is done, they will be divorced. So the window that I was spending all my time to design for will probably not be enjoyed by them. And I had this just this gut feeling, it's just so terrible. I remember feeling God, why am I going wholehearted to design for these people when they're not really going to enjoy it. And slowly with the practice, I realized one way to affect the world most is to help people understand their mind, because that for me was the beginning of everything. When I began to see how my mind worked, how the resentment I had towards my father, and the difficulty I was struggling with as a Vietnamese American to fit in. So these struggles I had internally, the practice helped me find stability, find happiness. And I decided to change career, to become, to dedicate my whole life towards learning and understanding about myself. And through that, understanding you and growing understanding. So my career now is a eternal student, or to spread more understanding and more compassion, hopefully. And so this is for me my I think whatever job you're working with, vocation, it's okay. You don't need to all switch to a job that changes the environment, that has like a very socially meaningful engagement. It might be a job that you're holding, that you interact, but remember the vocation of a practitioner is to check whether your understanding, your love is growing. So even if you are a grocery person, even if your career is, you're doing it and it's not fulfilling you, but you have a sangha and you get fulfillment through that your understanding, your practice is evolving and growing, this is also part of being human in this practice, in the Sangha. So I share that with you because I know at our age, love and career is a constant fly in our head, and with our parents as well, to reconcile with our roots, our ancestor. Our parents is the most immediate, and to take care of that relationship, and then the other two, finding that love, and then finding a career, a vocation, and those are all important. I have a dream about it, and it's to bring the monastery closer to where you are. And I've been sharing this with a lot of young people. We have sanghas now, and we meet once a week, once a month. Now we meet online. But envision the sangha, and I want to share you Thay's vision. He called it MPC, Mindfulness Practice Center. And Thay got that vision from yoga centers. How the yoga practice now has become so entrenched in society. Even in schools now, young people are doing yoga. And in the gyms, there's always yoga class. So in terms of mindfulness practice, Sangha community practice, our task is to form these mindfulness practice centers in parallel with yoga centers. Mindfulness practice centers, Sangha, no longer, wake up is no longer a movement, but a settlement. We need to create entrenchment in the city. We need to bring the monastery into the city, close to where people live, and create these centers. And Sangha members, Sangha leaders, ambassadors, OI members become the, how do you call it, the chaperone, what do you call them? They manage the place, they run the place, and they become the refuge for young people. So remember the healthy, compassionate society, centers. So create an alternative for young people. And I wanted to transmit that to you, Thay's vision for MPC, Mindfulness Practice Center. And for those of you who are capable or find that interesting or have the talent, and because it requires some business know-how as well as mature, responsible kind of wake-up people, and not just like hippie, leave it there, everything will be fine, but to create a place together so that it becomes a refuge. And this is, I know a few young people who are doing that, trying to do that. Mark, down here in San Diego, he's had 2 successful business with acupuncture and Asian medicine. And now he's looking to form a center in San Diego. And I know there are others as well. So we have monasteries, we have retreat centers, but now we need urban centers. So please, I want to water that seed in you. And that is the direction for us to contribute to society, to model a way of living where Buddhists and non-Buddhist practitioners come together, and they know how to live more healthily, more sanely, more compassionately. And this is Thầy shared with me in the Dharma talk, as well as a few monks and nuns. Personally, his vision for the wake up to become youth for school of youth for social service. We need to continue that. So the Center for Youth, so be like CYSS, CYSS. So I want to I try to inspire you to, some of you out there who might have this inclination to help us. And the monks and nuns, we will be right there behind you to have a place where many people from all kinds of walks of life, from different religion, different backgrounds, can come and show that we can live together through the practice, to enjoy the meal, to lunch together. And on the weekend, it's open up, is free kombucha, free tempeh, free vegan food. And can you imagine, the open sofa, so young people from all over will come there, not to spend money, but to be with each other. And then you can have yoga, you can have qigong, you can have exhibition and art. Anyway, I just want to share with you, since I have this opportunity to plug in a vision. It's a fun vision I have. It's quite boring in the monastery, so we want it in the city. So, you can have mindful dancing, mindful rap, mindful open mic, with comic, stand-up comic. I think Sister, who was recently, was so funny. Gosh, there was who is just speaking? Boy Ngim. Boy Ngim will be great on the mic. She has punchline right on, Did you notice? And she holds a very good poker face. We can have open mic at these centers. So anyways, practice, study so your heart grows and learn. Read those 5 mindfulness training. Serve. Be a force for change in your life and in society. And of course, the most important, play, dance, volleyball, basketball, and of course, singing. So this is something so important in community, these 4 elements. So that's I throw that in there, the pot, and I hope the seeds will grow in one of you. I know there's some sisters up there in Ukiah. They have a center up there in Northern California, and that's wonderful blooming up there as well. So we'll end here, and I want to express that gratitude to you for all our young ones to have faith, to have trust in the Sangha, in the Fourfold Sangha, the monks and nuns, the multi-fold Sangha. Sorry, I just got upgraded. It's not Fourfold Sangha, multi-fold Sangha. And we really mean all that. So don't be caught by the word. So when I say something and you feel included, it is also a seed for suffering. Because I might say something else. So you know how the mind works, right? So you are free, right? So the practice is not to just find things, views, notions that make you feel oozy inside, but also don't be moved, don't be disturbed, like Phap Ho said. Be like a mountain too when you see someone in the street that makes you fearful. Don't react to that fear. Go back to mere awareness, because you will only contribute to the fear when you are fearful. So this is the path of transformation at the base. We don't want to just be in the realm of more notions. Of course, they help, to use the right word, to be sensitive to representation. Thay works with that. When we go to Vietnam, he brings all the Western monks and nuns, every single one of them. And he makes sure the nun is out there in the front of the monks, or equal, in line. He asked the nuns to dance in front of all the venerables. And we're like, oh my God, in Hue? Are you crazy, Thay? We're in the back freaking out. So Thay knows that we also can use representation to change people's point of view. To use words like, yes, Black Lives Matter. And to call out things that that make people uncomfortable and make me feel uncomfortable sometimes. Boi Nghiêm was like, life is a thunderbolt. Some things she said on there has never been said by a monastic, in front of a monastic. And we all acknowledged that. The monks came back and we were like, man, she was right on. You can feel Thay, and when she speaks, it's all of us speaking. It's Thay, the young Thay speaking in that black and white photograph. And this is the spirit. And it's challenging. I'm not saying it's easy. And so please be patient and tolerant when mistakes are made, and we are learning as we are also on the path. So thank you for your understanding and for your practice. And please take what you need, and the rest of it, throw it away, especially the stuff that was unskillful. Or write to me and educate me. I need to be unrusted. So let's listen to 3 sounds of the bell, and to come back to a place of gratitude to our teacher, the eternally youthful teacher, Thay, in Hue, in Vietnam, in us, in this present moment.
Dear respected teachers, dear Sangha, thank you, Phap Dung, for a beautiful Dharma talk to close our retreat. A few announcements for everyone, in person and online. We have the closing session live with Plum Village in about half an hour. So please, for those of you online, take the time to close the screen for a little bit and enjoy a little space, bathroom break, view outside in nature. And for my siblings and friends here in the monastery, you can please stay behind for about 5-10 minutes to help reset the hall for the closing ceremony. Some sisters will guide on how we want to do that.